So first of all, I want to just say thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come and learn more about Knanaya history. One thing I wanted to say is identity is one of the biggest challenges we face in our lives. Questions that be addressed is, who are we? Where do we come from? Why do our parents have all this Knanaya pride? So hopefully this presentation will be able to get through and solve some of those questions that you have. So let's just go ahead and start. So the context that we're going to be talking about are, who are the Canaanites? Why did the Canaanites come to India? Knanaya traditions. What are Knanaya traditions to the Indian church? The history of Canaanites after the death of Knanaya Thoman. Kottayam diocese. Knanaya migration across the globe. Knanaya migration, the Malabar migration. What were the organized Knanaya migrations to the Malabar? The second settlement, Manapam. The third settlement, Ranapuram. What is endogamy and why do we practice it? And the Knanaya community today. So first is, who are the Canaanites? Now, Canaanites are a community that traces the origin from a group of Jewish Christian immigrants from southern Mesopotamia to South Indian port of Kodungallur in 345 AD. They formed themselves into an endogamous community. So you can see here on this map, they went from Mesopotamia all the way to India in 3 ships. The original community consisted of about 400 persons belonging to 72 families of 7 clans headed by Thomas of Kanata, which you can see right here. Now, Thomas of Kanata was a rich merchant who had several large ships and brought products like dates, grapes, black pepper, ginger, cardamom, and other spices from Mesopotamia to India. Now, he went from Jerusalem through Mesopotamia and sailed to Kodungallur by ship. From there, he went to 7 neighboring places and preached about Jesus Christ. Now, why did the Canaanites come to India? Saint Thomas was a disciple of Jesus Christ who went to India in 52 AD to teach about Jesus Christ. The church in India had a steady growth, but in the 4th century, it had no bishops or priests. Bishop Urahar Mar Joseph, 4 priests, 72 families with the 400 people helped this Indian church, who were all led by Thomas of Kanata. Now, on the 7th of March, 345 AD, all the 3 ports that left from Mesopotamia reached and anchored to the port of Kodungallur. Now, at Kodungallur, there lived a king called Perama. He was the king of the country of Chera, now known as Western Tamil Nadu and Central Kerala. Now here you see a picture of Thomas Kanata and the king. The king welcomed the immigrants with trumpets and horns in a solemn procession, and they were given a warm reception with a big banquet. Now, King Perama, he welcomed them by signing each one on their forehead with sandalwood paste. Now, Thomas Kanata presented the King Perama with gold, jewels, and precious stones. Now, Thomas Kanata, along with the Bishop Urahar Mar Joseph, 4 priests, and the 72 families with 400 people pledged their loyalty to the king and his kingdom. So in return, King Perama granted a large piece of land for them to build houses and a church for their people. Not only that, but King Perama also granted 72 royal privileges, like riding on elephants and chariots and palanquins, which you can see here, using drums and other musical instruments. Now let's talk about some of the Knanaya traditions. Now our Knanaya history is kept alive, and Knanaya traditions is handed down by singing the ancient folk songs, playing ancient folk dance called Markamkali, and keeping our special marriage customs. The unique features of our marriage ceremonies are notable. The folk dance called Markamkali is a special Knanaya cultural heritage. The dancers stand around a lighted lamp representing Jesus, the light of the world, that you can see on the bottom right-hand corner. Now, what are the Canaanites' contributions to the Indian church? Christianity started in India during 52 AD with the arrival of St. Thomas, the apostle. But by the end of the 4th century, Christianity in India was almost dying. Two main reasons was one, due to the lack of spiritual leadership, and two, of the caste system that is even present today. Now, after the death of Jesus Christ, the Jerusalem church was destroyed, and the Jewish people were either killed or exiled. Some Jewish people became Christians, and these Jewish Christians from Galilee were scattered. Canaanites are the descendants of these Jewish Christians who migrated to the Malabar coast of India during the 4th century under the leadership of Thomas of Cana to rejuvenate the disintegrating Christian church established by St. Thomas the Apostle. Now, what was the history of the Canaanites after the death of Kanata? Now, Kanata died and was buried at St. Thomas Church, built by himself at Kodungalore. Christianity was flourishing after his death till the 5th century. Now, in 1524, St. Thomas Church of Kanata was destroyed by the battle between the king of Cochin and Samradri of Kozhikode. Now, this was led to the exodus of Canaanites, and they scattered and went and settled down in places like Karataturi, Kottayam, Chungam, and Kalaseri. Now, the Kottayam diocese. The Kannada Catholics were originally dispersed among different dioceses in Kerala state. Under the East Syrian bishops, the Kannada community had their own churches and priests that was distinct from those of the non-Kannada St. Thomas Christians. Now, the desire to keep their unique identity and heritage led to a strong move for a separate diocese for the Kannada Catholics. Through the intercession and personal appeal of Bishop Mar Matthew Monkil and Pope St. Pius X, on August 29, 1911, a special decree was instituted for a new apostolic vicar of Kottayam. Now, Bishop Mar Matthew Monkil, which you can see a picture there, was appointed to this new diocese for the Kannada Catholics by transfer from his former diocese of Changanacheri. Now, following thereafter, the Knanaya community has been guided and led by bishops and priests who have worked together hand in hand. The Knanaya community are always very much interested in building our own parish churches for daily worship and sacramental needs. To uphold these customs, which they received from the first community who arrived in Kerala in the 4th century. The Knanaya community is a faith community, and they received this faith from their forefathers. Their devotion and prayer life, especially family prayer that many of you participate in every day, helps them to strengthen that faith to the younger generations. This faith also helps them to have a strong family relations and live as a community of faith. Now, Kanata migration across the globe. Migration has come naturally to those of Knanaya heritage. Many crossed the 7 seas, like their forefathers, in search of a better life. In the 1940s, Knanaya people migrated from central Travancore to Malabar in search of a better life in a much fertile land with prosperous agriculture. Now, this became the catalyst for many others to migrate. Now, since then, Canaanites have migrated to nearly every corner of the planet. Now, let's talk about the Malabar migration. Now, what was the reason for that? Well, there was a large scale of migration of Syrian Christians from central South Kerala to the northern regions of Kerala, called Malabar, in the 20th century. It started from early decades of the 20th century and continued well into the 1970s and 1980s. Now, what were the reasons for this migration? Well, there was multiple reasons, but 4 main reasons was central Travancore had experienced a steep increase in population in the early 20th century. And because of this increase, this resulted in search for better living. 2, the availability of a large, uncultivated, and affordable land in the northern part of Kerala. 3rd, the after effect of a Second World War. And 4th, the political turmoil and the repression of the government by Sir C.P. Ramaswamy. Now, what were the organized Knanaya migrations to the Malabar? There were 3 main organized settlements or colonies. 1, Rajapuram, 2, Manampam, and 3, Ranapuram. The first colony was in Rajapuram in Kasaragod district. A group of 72 selected families from Kirangur, Kudalur, Punatera, and Pala started their journey on February 2nd, 1943 by train from Kottayam and reached Rajapuram on July 4th. They settled in places like Chulakara, Kular, and Malkal. Now, the second settlement was in Manappam, also known as Alexnagar, after the Bishop Alexander Chulaparambal. Now, Manappam was 30 kilometers east of Kannur. 100 selected families, mostly from Meenachal Taluk, traveled to Kannur on the 6th of May and reached Manappam on the 8th of May. They settled in Manappam and Piyavur. Now, the third settlement was in Ranapuram. Third settlement was in Ranapuram in Kasaragod district in the year 1970. Bishop Thomas Tharial and Father Stephen Muthakattal, the Episcopal Vicar, brought 752 acres of land and distributed to 45 families. The migrants started their journey from Kochi on 26th of January 1970 and reached Ranapuram on the January 27th. The first parish priest of Ranapuram was Father Philip Punathavelli. Now here you can see on the right the Ranapuram Hills that is present today. Now this brings us to the question of what is endogamy and why do we practice it? We hear all about endogamy. Now we need to understand what it is. Now, endogamy is the practice of marrying in a specific ethnic group. It means to follow the rules and traditions of our Canaanite ancestors without compromising from the time the Canaanite community was established. Canaanite cultures and traditions can be passed down to the next generation by marrying a Canaanite person born to a Canaanite parents. It is through endogamy that Canaanites share the same values of life, customs, traditions, and above all, it follows one faith or one belief. Now, what about our Canaanite community today? Many Canaanites migrated to North America to improve their economic condition and for better opportunity and prosperity. Dr. P.T. Joseph Pullicut was the first one to come to America in 1952 for research. Now, some went to Canada for higher studies as well. Now, during the early 60s, there was a great need for nurses and other medical professionals in the US to care for the wounded soldiers from the Vietnam War. As a result, there was a change in US immigration law in which many Canaanites, most of them nurses, and other professionals, along with their families, migrated to the US. Now, those who came early settled in and around the cities of New York and Chicago. Now, Canaanites have established themselves in places like Canada, California, Connecticut, Detroit, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Indiana, Kansas, Maryland, Minnesota, Nevada, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, Philadelphia, and Texas. Now, they've also migrated to other parts of the world, such as the UK, Australia, Africa, UAE, and other places as well. You can see how it's scattered all throughout the world. Now, the Indian Knanaya Catholic Association, or IKCA, was the first Knanaya association developed in the US of America in 1976. The first Knanaya National Convention took place in New York on July 4th through 5th, 1986, and led to the formation of the Knanaya Catholic Congress of North America, or KCCNA. The Bishop of Kottayam, Thomas Tariel, started the Knanaya Catholic Youth League in 1969 by organizing a youth camp at Sacred Heart Mount High School, Kottayam. Now, the Knanaya Catholic Youth League of North America, or the KCYLNA, was formed as a youth wing of the KCCNA in 1994. Now, the Knanaya Catholic Women's Forum of North America, or the KCWFNA, was formed as a sub-organization of the KCCNA in 2006 and is formed for women of the community to come to share and lead in the growth of the Knanaya community. Now, there have been other Knanaya associations throughout the world that have been created as well, such as the Knanaya Catholic Congress of Oceania, or KCCO, the United Kingdom Knanaya Catholic Association, or the UKKCA, Knanaya Catholic Congress UAE, and many more. So I just want to leave you off with this. First of all, with this message. Thank you